Welcome back. Today, or in this video, we're going to finish our clicks per second tester. So I want you to open both the CSS and HTML files with Visual Studio, and I want you to run the HTML file with Microsoft Edge. Once you're ready, we'll proceed. So a couple things I'd like to change. First of all, this says click the green button. It's not clear what to do. So maybe we should make that message a little bit clearer so that the person using this knows what more to do. What could we do? Let's tell them exactly what they must do and what's happening. So let's just say, we'll say, calculate your CPS. Start by clicking, if I can type, clicking the button and continue clicking for 5 seconds. How about that? I think that's more clear. Save, refresh, calculate your CPS, start by clicking the button and continue clicking for 5 seconds. I think that makes a lot more sense. What do we do next? Well, this header, I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty ugly. Let's make it look a little bit more professional. Now, where do we style the header? It's in CSS file and in this. Here's when we're styling it. So what can we do? How can we change it? First of all, I think the background doesn't make sense. Since this is green, maybe the header should be similarly green. So the click me button, the background color is forest green. Why don't we do that? Why don't we make it forest green? Save, refresh. Yeah, okay, but the red doesn't fit at all. So why don't we say simple? We'll go with black. Refresh. Okay, that's looking better. But you know what? We can also do like cool things like put shadows on letters, and that kind of makes it look a lot better. Now again, how do we do that? We go back to our W3 school and let's search how to add shadow to text. How about that? And the first thing that comes up is CSS text shadow property. That sounds about right. So let's click on this and see. Make it a little larger. What is that? Well, let's try it. Try it yourself. So look, nice. I can do different shadow. Maybe I can make it, say, how about larger? I can play with this. And ooh, okay, that's way too far. Okay, run. Maybe I'll put color white. Run. Yeah, okay, white doesn't make sense because it's white background. So maybe how about blue? Run. Okay, cool. So I can play with that and I can, I kind of experiment and see what I like. So let me copy this and add this here. So we've got this here. Let's refresh. Oops. Control S to save. Refresh. And ooh, blue doesn't look good. How about white? Ooh, that doesn't look great either. This is something you don't know, but I know that we can also add a blur effect. Okay, save. And that should be better. Yeah, it's not so, seems like it's a blurred shadow. I think that looks pretty cool. So go ahead, do the same thing. And I'll highlight what you need to do. So what did we do? We changed the color to black. We changed the background to forest green. And we added this text shadow style. So go ahead and do that and come back when you're done. Let's also change the title. I mean, the game is not the best of titles. So why don't we go here? So this is the header. And instead of saying the game, let's say something like, I don't know, clicks per second test. Sounds about right. Let's refresh. And you know what? That makes a lot more sense. So go ahead and do that. Please change that text from the game to something a bit more meaningful. Come back when you're ready. So I think we got everything looking pretty cool and working. But there's one last thing that I don't like. So when you use this and you finish, your clicks is displayed. Well, there's nothing to do, and the user has to know that they should refresh the page to start over. That's not a very good thing. I mean, it'd be nice to give them some kind of a message that would tell them, hey, click here to restart. And maybe we should do that. Maybe we should put it at the very bottom here below click me. Some kind of a button that would say, you know, click here to restart, say. So why don't we do that? Why don't we add some kind of a div that's below the click me and above the footer? So why don't we do something like, oops, div, and close div, and put some kind of text in it, like how about click here to restart and try again. Let me save this. Okay, here it is. Now, I probably want to give it ID because I'm going to want to style it, and I'll probably have to have, you know, events associated with this so that we can actually do the refreshing. So why don't I give it an ID? ID, and what kind of a name? How about restart? Okay, just refresh. Okay, that works pretty cool. So go ahead, do that, please. So you need to add this. And again, be very careful. Don't forget the quotes or things will not work properly. Come back when you're finished. So maybe let's style it. I mean, you know, this is not good to have just this text. We probably want it to look like a button. Well, we do that with CSS. So here's CSS. And we already have a button. This click me is a button. Now I wouldn't want the restart button to look exactly like this, but rather than trying to remember every setting from scratch, we could, well, copy the click me CSS. I could take the whole thing, just copy this. So be careful when you do that. Copy this, right click, copy, go to the very bottom, paste, and all I have to do is change the name. Well, what name did I give the div? I gave it a name or ID, restart. So I'm going to copy that. I like to copy instead of rewriting. And the reason why is because if I copy, I know I'm going to get it done right. So I'm going to delete this and paste. And I'm going to save. I'm going to go here, refresh, and yep, it makes sense. The two buttons look exactly the same. So go ahead, do that, please. And that is, again, you select this whole thing, you copy it to the end of the document. Remember, make sure you grab the beginning and the end brackets. If you forget something like this bracket, then things will not be right. So make sure you get that right. Make sure you, make sure you copy this carefully and rename the click me to restart. So go ahead, implement this, refresh your page, and come back when you're ready. Okay, so now what? Well, I don't want this button to look exactly the same as this. I mean, this is the main part of the game. This should be much smaller, perhaps different colors. So what do I want? Maybe I don't want this kind of a background. Maybe I want something like blue. How about deep sky blue? If I have deep sky blue, it's going to be quite light. Then the color white probably will not be good for the font. So maybe I'll just choose black or something like that. Let's refresh. Okay, it's all screwy still, but the colors I think are a bit nice. So go ahead, do that, make that change. So change the color to deep blue sky. Again, you could use a different color, but I would urge you to use the same color because we'll continue with these examples. So deep blue sky and black. Go ahead, make that change. Make sure it looks like this and come back when you're ready. What's next? Well, this is pretty large. Well, the height, it specifies how high we want that button. So I want it to be smaller. Let's just say maybe 50 pixels. And I know that if I change the height, I also have to change the line height. These two go hand in hand, and this is what centers the text vertically. So I'll change it to 50. Save, refresh. Oops, look, it didn't go right. Why? Because I line height 50 of what? 50 pixels. Just like that, I could mess up. So when you're doing things and when I highlight what needs to be changed, you have to check really character by character when something goes wrong. Okay, that's much better. So here we have this font size large. I don't know how we say it, maybe large. Yeah, that's about right. You know, I think the button is still too high. So I'm going to change this maybe to 30. Just follow along right now. I'm going to highlight the things you have to change later, so don't worry. Yeah, that's about right. But you know what? I also don't want the button to be as wide as the click me. Again, this is supposed to be like sort of secondary. So why don't I maybe change the margins to be something like 35. And this, if you remember correctly, this margin right, margin left controls how much white space to put here. So the larger this number, the smaller the button. So let me save. Okay. And well, things are kind of messed up because the again is it's outside of the blue. We'll learn how to make this better. This is not the best way of doing things, but it will work. What we can do maybe is we can maybe make the font size smaller. So we have large. What else we have? Medium. How about that? Okay. And maybe we are being too aggressive, so put 30. Okay, that's a little better. So I don't know, I'm pretty satisfied with this. So go ahead, do something similar. I'm going to highlight the things that we've changed. Come on. So what have we changed? We changed the font size to medium. We changed the line height to 30 pixels. Sorry, the height to 30 pixels and the line height to 30 pixels. We changed the margin from 25 to 30. And I believe that is all. So go ahead, implement that and have it look like this and come back when you're done. So I think it's looking pretty cool. Now we actually have to make it do something because right now clicking doesn't do anything. So what do? Well, we want to do something on a click. So we know how to do that. We can just attach an event, a click event. So let's go back to our HTML. And oops, let me just maybe go like this. How about that? So we know how to attach click events because using this line right here, we attach a click event to the click me button. And again, let me do a little review because it's been quite a while back that we did this. So how do we do that? We get the document, and this saying document gives us access to anything here. Then we say get me an element with a particular ID. In this case, it's the click me element. So now I have this element. And then we say, listen, add an event listener. What that means is when the click event occurs, I want you to be listening for that. And when it occurs, call a piece of code which is called clicked. and we create this piece of code by saying function clicked. So why don't we do the same for the restart? So let's go document. Oops. And again, because it comes up already here and it's highlighted, I don't have to finish typing it. Just press tab. Then I click this and I say get, and look at that. It highlighted this already. So again, just press tab. And then I open and close bracket. I do quotes. And here I have to give the name of the div, or the ID of the div to be specific. And the ID is restart. So I'll type restart. And again, I'll double click on it to make sure that these two are exactly the same. So I know they're the same. If I made a mistake here and I double clicked on it, you see how it doesn't highlight restart? So it tells me something's not quite right. So this is a neat little tool, saves you a lot of time. Yep, all good. So now I have this element. So now I want to do this add event listener. So I do dot, and guess what? Add event listener again is selected here. So I press tab, and I have to say what event. Well, event is called click, and then what piece of code should be called? Well, I could put anything. I come up with a name, so I can go something like that, and that will work too. But I don't want, this is just a name that we give to the function. So here is the name is clicked, and this function is defined here. Well, it doesn't matter what we do, but we try to make the name such that it makes sense. So when you're looking at the code, you don't see this weird bunch of characters. You actually see something that makes sense. Well, what could make sense? Well, I can't say clicked, because if I do that, then, well, the clicking on the restart button would call this function. So I don't want to do that. So I need to have something else. So maybe I'll say something restart clicked. How about that? But see how those, say, restart clicked, those two words kind of get glued together and it's hard to read? Well, typically you would do this underscore. And this key is directly to the right of your 0 key. You press shift and that key, and you get this underscore called underscore. And it allows you to separate, let me just click away. It allows you to separate words so that it's easier to kind of read. Okay, so we have that. Now we need to create a function with this name. So I'm going to right click copy. I'm going to say function space Control V to paste. Then I have to do this open and close bracket. If I put open, Visual Studio already puts the close. And then I'll put semicolon, open. Visual Studio automatically gives me the closing semicolon, which is great. And I hit enter, and now I have it here. And what do I want to do here? Well, now I need to actually restart. But before we get there, please implement what I just did. And again, I'll take a screenshot, and we will, let me just actually, before that, let me save. And I always refresh to make sure that things are still kind of working. Okay, good. Things are still working, so I didn't break anything badly. Okay, so now I'm going to take a screenshot. And again, use the tab, because remember, if you type get element with a small e, it will not work. So make sure you get this exactly right, and then do this function like this. Come back when you're ready. Now we need to actually have the button do something. So, I mean, this function gets called here, but it doesn't do anything yet. So, well, how do we refresh? Can we even refresh? Let's go to our W3 School. Okay, and let's search. I'm going to say, well, first of all, what are we trying to do? We are trying to refresh the page using what? I guess this is JavaScript code here. So I guess we want to refresh the page using JavaScript code. Let's type that in. Refresh page using JavaScript. Enter. And look at that. What's the very first hit? Location reload method. The reload method reloads the current document. Well, that sounds like it's something we need. So let me go in here. And it says reload the current document. Try it yourself. Well, let me try it. So script location reload. Okay, so this always reloads the page on when this loads. So that's not the best example, but it does what it says it does. So it actually does reload. So why don't I copy this? And paste it here. Let's see. Control S. Refresh. Okay. If I click here, will it refresh? Yes, it does. In fact, you can see with this refresh button kind of blinking, every time I do that, we actually are refreshing the page. So I think we got it working. So go ahead and add this location reload to your CSS. Go ahead, add that in. Again, notice how everything actually is small, small letters. Come back when you finish. So it's working. But what else is not perfect? Well, when the page first loads, it doesn't make sense to have this because you haven't really started anything yet, right? So it's not a very good design to have this page, to have this button that doesn't really do anything at this moment. I kind of would like this button to not be visible until this button gets clicked. How to make it invisible? Well, it's not something that you would normally know, but I can show you that we can do this with CSS. So if I go to CSS, if I look at this is what styles restart, there's something called visibility. So it comes up here. So I just press tab, and visibility has a bunch of properties. One is hidden. Okay, let me save that. And hidden means that basically the element is not visible. Refresh. Okay, and it's not visible. So it's kind of what we want. So go ahead, add this visibility hidden to CSS and come back when you're ready. So this is good. It's not visible, but we need to make it visible, right? When this gets clicked, this button now should come up. How can we get that done? Well, let's go back to our JavaScript code. Well, we should, on the first click of ClickMe, make this button, this refresh button, visible. Well, what function gets called when we click? Well, on click, this function gets called, clicked, and it's this function right here. And we do a bunch of things here. We basically start a timer for 5 seconds, and then we add the clicks, and then we display the message number of clicks is something. But look at this code here. We have this code here that we specifically put in this if, and we said that because of this if, checking if x is 0, this code inside here will only be called once on the very first click. I think this is a good place to make our refresh button visible. Now, how do we do that? How do we make it visible? Well, remember how we add event listeners to elements? We first selected the element by ID, and then we added the event listener. What about changing the text of an element? For example, here, we're changing the text of the element, again, by first getting the element by ID. So if we're going to change some CSS setting, maybe we should get the element by ID again. Okay, so let's do that. Document, tab, period, get, element by ID already selected, tab, and what's the ID? Well, restart. Double click. Yep, same one. Now, if I do dot, I have now, gives me all the different things that I can do with this object. For example, I can add an event listener here. See that? I would be able to here find setting the inner text. But I want you to pay attention is, in my case, it's showing me the style. Now, style is actually the same word for CSS. It's basically CSS styles. So let me double click on that. And this now gives me ability to change styles for the object. If I click dot, you can see, look, with position, color, it looks like a bunch of styles. So what style do we want to change? Well, let's go back to our CSS. We want to change a style called visibility. Let's see if this is one of the options. Style dot visibility. Look at that, visibility. So I click tab and I have visibility. Now, how do I actually change its value? I do equals and then I put some new value. Now I know that the new value is visible. Okay, we have it currently set to hidden, and now we're saying to visible. I know that this works. And again, remember that equals means take this and put it inside here. So let's save that and see what happens. Okay, yes, it worked, it showed. Okay, let's try that. Let's debug this. So let me just refresh. So this, I know that that div is here. It's just not visible. So I'm going to right click here and then choose inspect. And I didn't find it here. So what it is where is the restart? Ah, here is the restart. And look at this. I can examine its styles and I can see that the visibility is hidden right now. And if I unclick that, then I actually make it visible. Okay, so if I click me using JavaScript, this style should be changed. Let's try this. Watch this as I click. I click and look at that. Visibility hidden is removed. Oops, I shouldn't. That's bad. We had a breakpoint there. Let's try this again. Inspect. Oops, restart. Visibility hidden. I click and visibility hidden has been removed. We changed it to visible, but visible is a default. It's just the way it is. So we basically, it's showing that this visibility hidden has been removed by JavaScript. All right, so go ahead and implement this. I'm just going to highlight. This is what you have to add, and be very careful where you're adding it. It has to be before the close bracket in this whole if. Be very, very careful about that. Highlight, go ahead, add this in, and come back when you're done. I think we have pretty much everything ready. But before we finish, and before we upload this file to your spaces on W3 Schools, one thing I wanted to show. Remember how we were talking, we had that silly video about OVA on the walkie-talkie. Remember how we said that it's very important to finish a like when something begins, like this div begins, we have to have a way of telling the computer the div is ending. So we have this slash div saying that's the end. Well, for CSS, we had this semicolon to say that it's ending. And if I remove the semicolon, everything got screwy, because if I remove the semicolon, then this is what the computer thinks. The computer thinks that you want to set the margin type style using this value here, which doesn't make any sense. But if you put semicolon here, it means the end, over. So in fact, you can take all of this and put them all on one line like this, and it's okay, because a semicolon means done, done, and then the computer knows that the next thing that's coming is a brand new style. But to make it more reasonable for humans and for computers, we kind of put everything on the same line. Note that I didn't mention anything about ending a command in JavaScript. So if I go to here, there's no ending. It seems that we're basically this end and the next line is there. And this actually does work, but in reality, every line really should be ended with a semicolon. So let me see here. Everything should actually have a semicolon at the end to say that it's finished. And if you have a semicolon at the end, you could, just like with CSS, actually put these two commands together on the same line, and the computer would know, okay, I should do this first, then do that. But we don't do that. Why? Because again, this is much easier for humans to read. But technically, it should be a semicolon everywhere. And you should get into the habit of putting those in at the end. You don't have to do this. We're going to start doing it from now on. But it's just a little heads up that if you see the semicolon at the end, you're not going to be surprised. Technically, it's needed, but the browser will kind of assume that you meant a semicolon when you have a new line. So that completes our clicks per second test. So I want you now to upload it to your spaces at W3 School, and we're gonna do that together. And this will be officially your clicks per second page, and I think you should share it with your parents, perhaps your friends, and show off what you did, because I think it's pretty cool what you did. So let's do that. I'm going to open an incognito window so that I can log into my W3 spaces that I'm using for this lesson. You do the same thing, spaces.w3schools.com. And again, choose login in any way, in the way that you log in. Okay, so here's mine. Actually, I don't want to make it so big. Actually, let me just make it full screen. I go to Spaces, go to my space, and I would, again, we have this CPS HTML and CPS CSS, and we want to replace everything that's here with what we have. So I will delete everything, make sure it's all empty, and then go to your HTML, Control A to select everything, right click, copy, and I would place it here, paste, yes, allow the clipboard, save, and the same thing here, Control A to select everything, copy, go to the CPS CSS, which I guess I didn't save, that's why I forgot that I removed everything. Now that I moved everything, I say paste, save, go back to the game, run, and yep, it seems to be running. And I wonder what kind of a CPS are you able to get? And remember, this is the URL here. You can copy it and send it to your parents, your friends, whoever. Show off the work you did, because it's pretty cool what you did. So congratulations. See you in the next video.